Well, welcome to a new series that we are starting called Walking Through Blank, where just in each episode we will be talking about a different subject that usually is not talked about in the church, and just what it's like to walk through these different situations that we sometimes find ourselves in. And our desire with this series is just to bring to light different topics that are usually not talked about and just release hope and healing. And today I am so blessed and honored to have Mark and Tiffany here, and they are going to share their story of walking through an affair and infidelity in marriage. So Mark and Tiffany, thank you guys so much for being here. I feel so honored that you guys are sharing your story, and I'll let you take it away.
Okay. Well, I guess a little bit about us to start with. We've been married for 27 and a half years or so. We have been together for 28 and a half. We've got 3 children that are 2 adult children and 1 that's in high school. And I would say that the issues that we had in our marriage, or have had up until, were all based on lies, that it was believing lies. And that is what got us to the situation that we got to.
There's been multiple affairs in our marriage, and we had been married for 15 years, and we had just kind of grown apart. We had our 3 children, and
Very involved in their lives.
Mark started running a few years before the first affair, and he started running a lot.
Because I was spending so much time working out and stuff like that, she decided, well, maybe it's a good idea that we do this together, for us all to come to the gym, and that way we're all together at the gym. And so we started going to the gym, and then
But we didn't go together.
we didn't go together. Yeah, we went at different times because of our work schedules.
There was a certain girl at the gym who paid a lot of attention to Mark. Friended him on Facebook and would comment on all of his posts, and she would always make it a point to speak to him when he went to the gym, and she was there. So I would question him about it, and he just brushed it off. Oh, we're just friends, you know, we talk about working out, we talk about what we eat and that kind of thing. On a Saturday morning, he had gotten up, he was taking a shower, and his phone buzzed. So I went over and got his phone, and it said, "We lost a friend in a car wreck last night," and it had our friend's name. And I looked at the number, that it was a text, and I looked at the number who had texted. He had hidden her number in his phone under another name so that I wouldn't find it. And I was just floored. I mein, here I had just found out in the same moment that a friend of ours had died, a friend from the gym had died in a car wreck the night before, and that my husband was cheating on me, you know, in the same
Literally
moment.
the same sentence, yeah.
So I knocked on the bathroom door and walked in, and Mark was getting ready, and I handed him his phone, and I said, "You got a text?" And he saw the text that our friend had died, and he just kind of stumbled back and held onto the counter, and I said, "You know," I said, "as bad as that is not our worst problem right now." And he just kind of looked at me, and I said, "I know that's not a doctor's office that texted you that." I said, "I know whose number that is." And his face just fell. So we did talk, and he stayed at the house, and he explained his way through it.
I lied my way through it.
Yeah, he lied his way
I didn't
through
explain my way through anything.
So
for about 8 more months, it actually continued, and she didn't know. You know, I was believing the lie of, well, now, you know, what now? I mean, I can't tell her this now. I mean, but how, and I was lying to the other person too. I mean, about what my situation was, and I was looking out for me, and I was looking out for self-protection.
it was Thanksgiving weekend of that year, and we were talking, and I said, Mark, you've got to tell the truth. If we're ever going to get through this, you've got to tell the truth. And I said, I told you, I've forgiven you. And he looked me straight in the eye, and it's like his eyes just softened. And he said, even if it's still going on? And I jumped up out of the bed, and I just felt like I was going to throw up. And then it just washed over me. You've forgiven him. And it was just, I can't even explain it. It was just the Holy Spirit reminding me of the work that he'd already done in me, of forgiving Mark. And I felt such love for him at that moment. And we went through some counseling. We did some things. Mark repented.
I've had a lot of support from other men that I met with, and we would all the stuff that you're supposed to do, and it was very, very, very helpful. But one of the mistake that I made is when I admitted to her what I had done, I only admitted the one big thing. I'd given Satan the power to have, and so for a couple of years, things were going great, and somehow ended up with those same stuff of you deserve this, just the pride, and I ended up right back where I was again. But now it's a little bit different, because now instead of the lie of Satan saying you deserve this, now Satan's going, oh, you've messed up now. You have really messed up. And there's no way that your wife and your kids and whatever will ever love you again, and they'll ever, take you back. God had done such a wonderful thing in our lives the first time, and then I was just threw it all away for nothing. And our relationship is horrible, and she's not knowing what's going on.
Nothing ever got better, of course, and so he was just like, Tiffany, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? Let's just end it. So I did, not wanting to at all. I sat in the lawyer's office just, devastated, crying and thinking, how in the world did I get here? He signed the papers, and we started that process. He moved out of the house. The way that it all came to a head, and he showed up at church and walked in with Nevin and I. I didn't expect him there, but he was there, and he walked in with Nevin and I and sat down with us. And John Mio sang Forgiven.
Dave Crowder's.
By Dave Crowder. And Mark got up and walked out. And I just thought, he's convicted. He can't take this, Well, a few minutes later, Gert came in and got me and Marie, and took us out to a room where Mark was on the floor in tears. And Mark said, I just can't do this anymore. And he told me everything. And at this point, he had told this girl that he loved her, and they had actually talked marriage after our divorce was to be final. And I was floored. So he called me later in the day, and he said, we need to talk. Can we talk about this? And so my parents kept the kids, and he came home, and
we'd been separated for a couple months at this point.
And he said, I'll do anything. He said, I don't care. He put Life 360 on my phone so I would know wherever he was. He gave me all of his passwords. He said, I'll do whatever it takes. And I said, well, we're going to take this slow because I just don't know. He slept on the floor for a couple of months. And we got some intense counseling. And he had several guys who were holding him accountable, and we worked through that over a long period of time.
But this time the difference was everything came out. I mean, all the horrible stuff that in your mind Satan tells you she'll never forgive this. She'll never forgive. You know, you can't tell anybody this. And I had to tell her. I mean, that's because that's where the power was, and it was horrible having to tell her some of this stuff. But once it was out, I was free. One of the things that somebody told us in counseling is, you know, if you're praying with somebody every day, how can you fill in the blank? You know,
how can you be mad at somebody?
How can you be mad? How can you just whatever? So we purposely put into our days where we get up every day, we do devotionals, we pray before we even go to work and start our days, and that's been probably the most, I would say, the key thing to everything so far. And now we've done that for 5 years. One of the things that I'd had is when I was up on the mountain by myself at night, it would be really lonely and quiet, and literally wolves howling on Bays Mountain. And God really spoke to me, and He was like, because number one, about how lonely I was when I was trying to do things on my own, even though that I was believing this lies that this other person was going to come in and fulfill all my needs. But then I thought, you know, the work and the time that I'm going to have to put into this, why don't I put into what I already have? To me, with all the people we talk about, I know some people are in the middle of things and some people aren't. And some people have, you know, like us, it might have been a length of time, but probably the hardest part is being able to verbally say it and get it out and be free and put it in the light. And once you begin that process, it takes work. And it seems like it's a long, long process. But like anything else, you know, you put the work into it, there's value into it. And from my point of view, you know, that night that I came home and was sleeping on the floor, I never knew that we would be here. And the day at church when I finally let it all go, everything. When I did that, my intent wasn't necessarily for her to keep me or to take me back or anything. My intent was to be free from it so that I could be right with God. Because without that, nothing else that I would do would ever matter. And there would be no, you know, so that was the intent. But God blessed me enough that when I went through that and said that and did those things, that she so humbly and was willing to come alongside me again and work through it together.
Well, Mark and Tiffany, thank you guys so much for sharing your story with us.